people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. A special announcement set to go down on Thursday. DAZN have said that the Rolly Romero vs. Teofimo Lopez launch press conference on Thursday will also feature a special announcement with appearances from PBC fighters. Could we see PBC and DAZN officially join forces? We technically already have, as PBC on DAZN have already collaborated on the Garcia vs. Barrios fight, the Benavidez vs. Zerto fight. They recently picked up Spence vs. Zoo, and now they're doing this. So in many ways, we are already there. We've already seen it, what it might look like. All that's really left to do is make it official so that DAZN can really go all in not just distributing these PBC cards, but promoting them to their existing subscriber base. Now, I don't think that's going to make them any more marketable, any more appealing to the consumer, because a shit pay-per-view is a shit pay-per-view, but still, DAZN will help. The writing has been on the wall about PBC's deal with Amazon Prime for some time now, that Amazon is not filling the role that both Fox and Showtime once did. They're just distributing the PBC's pay-per-views, but they're not putting any money up. Whereas with DAZN in their back pocket, they might be able to go back to doing regular fights as part of a regular schedule. Even with the uptick of pay-per-views on the DAZN platform, maybe the PBC can do one or some regular shows like they used to. And DAZN's current arrangement with TNT to help distribute more boxing content across more platforms, the PBC could stand to benefit from that also. TNT's The Fight series. If you would have told people 5 years ago that the PBC is going to end up on DAZN, they wouldn't have believed you. Go back even further to when DAZN first debuts in the US market, when the guys at the PBC were calling it Dead Zone. Would have seemed improbable, this acquiescence of defeat, because that's what it really is. If they end up partnering with DAZN, it's out of desperation. It's for survival. For what other reason would they be going over there? What would they need from DAZN? All the stability they currently don't have on Amazon. Remember those would-be content creators framing the Amazon deal to being even better than what they had on Showtime, even better than what they had on Fox, on the premise of all the money that Amazon has, none of which they seem to have spent on the PBC's content. All they've been doing is distributing that content, but they haven't put any money behind it. They thought the PBC was gonna kill it when they landed on Amazon Prime. Like so many bad boxing takes you hear from the content creators in the United States, it just gets buried under what is this avalanche of bullshit. They just seem to move from one bad boxing take to another and another, hoping people forget. The way I see it, them doing any business with DAZN in any capacity is an acquiescence of defeat, because initially they were the main ones giving DAZN a hard time, and all of its fighters. They didn't want to do any business with them. So if that all of a sudden changed, it's because you've become desperate over time. You can't afford to stand alone anymore. You failed. That's all there is to it. So, does DAZN become the future home of all of the PBC fighters' fights? David Benavidez, Gervonta Davis, upon his ring return. That's how it's looking. Does this constitute value for money for the customer, for the consumer, for the existing DAZN subscriber? Is this a good thing? Should we be happy? Should we not be happy? We should be indifferent. Migrating over to DAZN enables the PBC to do what they've already been doing on Amazon Prime, which is putting most of their fights behind a paywall. At DAZN, I don't really think it would be any different, especially now that DAZN is really pushing this ultimate tier. It's really going to be more of the same thing. So it's not really a bad thing, but it's not that much of a good thing either, just more of the same. Really. The only way it turns out to be a good thing is if the PBC can start doing regular fights again. Not pay-per-views, regular fights as part of a regular schedule, more content to fill the gaps during the calendar year. Then
you could call that a good thing, but we'll see.
Men's junior middleweight news. Virgil Ortiz Jr.'s manager claims Jaron Ennis fight can be made in short order.
Yeah, but whenever Peanut Ricky gets to talking, I feel less than reassured that what he's saying is going to happen does happen.
The outline to resurrect a glamour junior middleweight unified title bout between the new champion Jaron Ennis and unbeaten WBC interim champion Virgil Ortiz Jr. has been sculpted. Now, according to Ortiz's manager, it's up to Ennis, his promoter Eddie Hearn, and mutual streaming partner DAZN to move swiftly to bring the anticipated showdown to reality as soon as late October.
Don't believe the hype. It's not gonna happen.
We have a pathway and foundational structure now if Boots wants to go first, Ortiz's manager, Rick Mirigian, told Boxing Scene on Monday, following a destructive second-round TKO win by Texas's Ortiz in November. Philadelphia's now unified junior middleweight champion Ennis was there ringside to call Ortiz out, and the bout was on its way to reality. Before Ortiz and promoter Oscar De La Hoya engaged in a legal squabble with opposing lawsuits to spoil the talks, Ennis proceeded to capture the WBO and WBA belts by stopping champion Xander Zayas in the 6th round, June 27th at New York's Barclays Center.
Yeah, we know.
On Monday's Ariel Helwani show, Ennis casted doubt on the idea Ortiz truly wants to fight him. Is this the same guy that's been on the floor multiple times? Ennis asked. He gets hurt. What's gonna happen when I touch him? Make that make sense. But as a summer arbitration date still hovers in the United States District Court in Las Vegas to determine the Ortiz versus Golden Boy union, those sides have met to hammer out their disagreements and position for a successful, rapid negotiation with Ennis and DAZN, Mirigian claims. We have a fair deal now, laid out. Both sides made some concessions and talked through issues and the interpretation of things, and took care of things that were not there prior, Mirigian said, of Ortiz's position with Golden Boy.
But that's just the Golden Boy stuff, you know? I don't think that encompasses reaching a deal with Jaron Ennis.
Pending DAZN making some decisions, this could be done in 48 to 72 hours. Getting the deal done for an Ennis fight would keep Ortiz bound to Golden Boy for Ennis and 2 more fights, yet the options for allowing the fight to slip away are perilous and uncertain.
Let's just try to keep things simple and sift through this word sandwich.
This fight is not going to happen in the fall.
Think about it. Virgil Ortiz's last fight, the one with Erickson Lubin, was in November of last year, so that if he then fights Jaron Ennis in October or November of this one, that's a year in between those fights. Do you think Golden Boy would allow Virgil to go into a Jaron Ennis fight having not fought in a whole year?
No, of course not.
Mirigian continued, "We have our arbitration date, and that's not moving," he said. "I'm hopeful that the principal people involved don't take much more, and then things fall apart. It is boxing, and nothing is ever done until it's done," Mirigian said. Finding a path forward with Golden Boy would also allow the promoter to strike a deal with WBC champion Sebastian Fundora and his promoter, Simpson Lukowicz, and the PBC. Yet Lukowicz repeated to Boxing Scene earlier Monday he plans to pursue a bout for Fundora versus mandatory challenger Ermal Hadrabayev.
We're gonna circle back for that.
Upon defeating Xander Zayas, 28-year-old Ennis originally expressed his interest in seeking a unification against Fundora, or England's IBF champion Josh Kelly, who's also promoted by Hearn. But just as Hearn said previously that a match versus Ortiz, 27, is the best fight boxing can make, Mirigian said it's appropriate. "I'll be the first to say Boots is really good. The sport needs him, and he seems like a decent person in an ocean of bad ones. But after 36 fights, he has never tested if he's good or great with a single opponent of Ortiz's proven caliber."
Stop the cap.
The world saw round 3 against Xander. He said of the moments when Ennis was rocked by power punches. "We all know why the energy to fight Ortiz changed. I would bet the farm on Ortiz in 8.
Of course you would. You're his fucking manager.
Mirigian said few can remember who Ennis or Zayas defeated to capture their prior belts, so I don't want to hear about the belt talk.
Of course you don't, because your fighter doesn't have any.
We all know what the best junior middleweight fight to make is. Anything else is ducking and excuses.
The more Rick Mirigian talks, the less confident I am that this fight is going to happen in a timely fashion, because from the get-go, Rick is the reason it didn't happen. Rick's pursuit of more money for the fight, remember? So when he says all this stuff about the fight possibly happening in short order, don't get your hopes up. It's not happening in October, it's not happening in November, it's not happening this year. Why would it? If it did, Virgil will be coming off a year layoff, which is less than ideal to go into a boots fight. Use your common sense.
You think Golden Boy is gonna do that? They also mentioned pursuing a fight with Sebastian Fundora.
Now that makes a little bit more sense, the first semblance of them actually pursuing that fight.
While Fundora's longtime handler, Samson Lukowicz, is talking about fighting some nondescript, mandatory, some Albanian guy, Ermac or Irma or whatever his name is. He's not the interim champion. Virgil is.
So what I think is going on is Samson is trying to get ahead of all this. He's going to petition the WBC to qualify this nondescript fighter as Sebastian's mandatory. That way, they don't have to fight Virgil. He wants Sebastian to fight another fucking bum, and it's up to Virgil and his team to do something about it. For the last 2 years, they haven't been doing much.
But they mentioned him.
No, I don't think Ortiz versus Ennis happens as soon as October or November, and I'm skeptical as to whether or not a Fundora fight would happen on that schedule as well, but I would sooner expect the Fundora fight to happen than the Ennis fight.
He mentioned the third round of the Xander Zayas fight where Jaron Ennis was noticeably hurt and taking punishment, and that's all good, that's fine, but he's acting like his fighter's shit doesn't stink because we've seen Virgil Ortiz down more times than we've ever seen Jaron Ennis down. I don't think Jaron Ennis has ever been knocked down, but we know that Virgil Ortiz has. 3 separate times in 2 separate fights. Once with Igis Kavaliauskas, then 2 more with Sergei Boachuk.
So you don't want to get too swept up in things that Rick Mirigian says when he dismisses Jaron Ennis being a unified champion, something his fighter never has been. He's only vying for leverage. Like I told you in a previous video, he wants me and you to believe that Virgil Ortiz is now on equal footing with Boots when we all know that he's not.
Saying that nobody knows who Zayas won his belts from, but we do know who Boots won his belts from. So what's your fucking point?
He won his belts from the same guy you offered a 50-50 split in the previous year, so don't act brand new now.
As far as the fight, my prediction hasn't changed. Stylistically, Virgil Ortiz is made to order for Jaron Ennis, a fighter who's been knocked down by lesser fighters, less talented punchers.
It's not even that Virgil doesn't pack a big enough wallop to hurt Boots, because I think he does. The problem is he's got to get close enough to him to use that power, and I don't think he can without running into something.
So it usually goes between boxer punchers and pressure fighters. Boots is lighter on his feet.
He'll be the one that moves around to create space and get his punches off. Virgil, being the come-forward fighter, he's going to come forward and walk into something. That's how it usually goes. That's how I think this fight would go.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, ahead of this weekend's Moscow show, Joyce is enjoying a new lease on life and here for Legacy Chapter.
I'm excited to be back in the ring and show the British fans and fans around the world what I'm made of, said a seemingly resolute Joyce. The heavyweight contender and former 2016 Olympic silver medalist is well-traveled and has seen plenty in his 16-4, 15 KOs career, but his 4 losses have come in his last 5 fights, and even in the 1 win against Cash Ali, he looked more like an old Joyce than the Joyce of old, but his path has led him to a new trainer, and he is now working with Sugar Hill Stewart ahead of Saturday's fight in Russia against Artem Suslenkov in the VTB arena in Moscow. I went and did a kind of trial with him to see how we gelled, said Joyce. I really like him, and he's got new things to add to my game, which you'll see on Fight Night. I went over to America to train in the gym there. It's great. You get a real taste for the area and the surroundings, the gym, the different boxers in there.
Sugar Hill Stewart seems like an all-around good guy. Seems like it's easy for him to get along with the fighters, but that doesn't necessarily make him the best fit.
For a guy like Joyce, we'll see.
Stewart is the latest of several big-name trainers Joyce has worked with since turning pro, following Abel Sanchez, Adam Booth, and Ishmael Salas. I've had some great coaches, right? Joyce added. They're all great coaches, and each has different methods. Then looking back on his own spell in boxing, he said, "Yeah, I've had a great career, and in the amateurs as well, from Earlsfield to the GB team, around the world with different coaches, in Cuba and stuff. I've had a wealth of experience that I'd like to pass on one day. I've done something that I've enjoyed and still enjoy. It's year in, year out, and you've got to keep plugging away and, obviously, take criticism and all the other bits and pieces, but on the whole, it's been a great career and I've enjoyed seeing different places, traveling the world, and learning new things and putting on a show. It's been great." Joyce said he has reviewed footage of Suslenkov while working on a strategy with Stewart. The Russian is rated number 10 by the WBA, and Joyce, 40 years old, still has world title aspirations. Many say he is not the fighter he was when defeating the likes of Daniel Dubois and Joseph Parker, and that he is not fully recovered from the consecutive stoppage defeats to Zile Chang. Decision losses to veteran Derek Chisora and Filipe Brgovic have followed.
Asked whether he felt he would have underachieved if he didn't win a world title, Joyce replied, "It's been a good life. Obviously, my amateur record. As a professional, I've been around, I've been to the top. But yeah, there's still more to come. This is like my legacy chapter, and I'm excited to get back in and show everyone what I've learned and show the British boxing fans what I'm about. Obviously, that a world title's the icing on the cake, but I've got to deal with it one fight at a time, and of course, Suslenkov is in my way, and I'm going to get him out of my way." Joyce lost a controversial decision in the Rio Olympic gold medal bout to Frenchman Tony Yoka, and it has long seemed apparent that he and Yoka would fight as professionals. That appeared more likely than not when Yoka paired with WBA champion Murat Gassiev on this same Russian bill. But Yoka withdrew injured little more than a week ago, and while Joyce was rumored to be a replacement, the Englishman remains set to face Suslenkov. "It's like 10 years ago now," Joyce said of Yoka and their fight in South America. "I'm just gonna have my fight on Saturday, and then, after that, we can decide what happens next. My focus is just Suslenkov right now," and he has seen the success of his old foe, Dubois, who currently owns the WBO version of the heavyweight title. Joyce defeated Dubois back in 2020. It was then that many wrote off Dubois as a consequence, and now they're writing off Joe. "Yeah, I suppose that's the game," he sighed. "I suppose you get kind of built up, and as soon as you have a loss or whatever, the people write you off. But in any sport, there are wins and losses, and it's about coming back and winning." Well, it's been a while since Joe won a fight. Approximately 2 years opposite the ring, Cash Ali, and he didn't look good in that one. It's even been a while since he last fought. April of last year, losing a decision to Filipe Brgovic. Joe's had time to rest, recover, lick his wounds, regroup, and re-strategize. Is Sugar Hill the answer for Joe Joyce at this late stage in his career? I really don't know. A cerebral trainer. What's he gonna do, try to turn Joe into more of a boxer? I don't think that's gonna work. Curious to see what this pairing is gonna look like in their first outing together, so I will be going live for the afternoon card broadcasted from Russia to see if Joe can get back in the winner's bracket and regain some sort of traction and stability in what remains of his boxing career.